Everyone, being mindful of time, knowing that there will be an AGM after me, right here in this room. I will start. If people walk in while I'm speaking, that's fine. So I will just address the elephant in the room right from the start. You can see by my name, you can already tell by my accent, I am very French. So if there's anything I'm saying that doesn't make sense, if pronunciation is not great, just let me know, I'll try my best. But I catered my presentation for my accent, so make sure that it's understandable as much as possible. So today, with you this afternoon, I'm gonna be talking trash as opposed to trash talking, talking about basically my 10-year experience with the Kent Regional Service Commission, starting as a community educator slash awareness coordinator for the commission, and going to getting the head of solid waste in the organization. So just a bit of context, since I'm not 100% sure of your knowledge of New Brunswick or the Kent region. So we have here a map of New Brunswick, and I'm talking about my organization, the Kent Regional Service Commission. So what is a Regional Service Commission? So it is not a new level of government, but we're basically managed by municipalities, and this creation was done by the province to enable communities to work together. So the three big reasons for the commissions to be created was to provide and facilitate the delivery of legislated services, also to facilitate the establishment of voluntary services agreements between between communities that want to participate, and also serve as a forum where communities collaborate on regional issues. So there are 12 commissions. And the two mandates that were legislated were land use planning and solid waste management. Today I will talk about our own experience from the Kent region. So this is right here, number 6 in the province. If you're familiar with New Brunswick, we're in the Bugtouche area. If Bugtouche means nothing to you, maybe Moncton, but we're north of Moncton, so that would be probably the place where people know it best in our area. So the KRRC numbers, this all started in technically 2013, but I'll show you a number for 2015 when we really kicked gears with this program, with this project. So we had 7 municipalities, 2 towns, 4 villages, 1 rural community, 20 local service districts, which was basically unincorporated area without any elections for local governance, and 3 First Nations. So this is what Kent County was. Now it changed since 2023, but I won't get into that detail today. Our area is just shy of 5,000 square kilometers with a very small population of 33,000 souls. And our biggest player at the time was the town of Bugtouche, with a population of 2,600 people and just a little under 200 million in tax base. So again, very small. And to put things into perspective, I decided to bring it closer maybe to home and talk about the Winnipeg metropolitan region, which is just a little over 5,000 square kilometers in area with a population of 834,000 souls. Again, Kent, just a little under 5,000 square kilometers, 33,000. So a very comparable size when it comes to the area, but only 3% of the population spread out through it. So again, very small, not very rich region. So every project comes with a problematic. And what was it that brought this subject on the table? Well, when it comes to waste, you either bring directly to sorting facilities, landfill, or you have transfer station. The town of Bugtouche had a transfer station that closed down in December 2014. So before January 2015, the minimum distance that haulers had to drive to bring garbage to their final destination was about not even 1 kilometer, because it was within a town, and the maximum distance was 77 kilometers. After the closing, starting in January 2015, the minimum driving distance would be 36 kilometers and the max distance 143. So you can imagine, major increase in contract cost. It wasn't just likely, it was inevitable. So when they learned that the transfer station had no intention to renew its contract in 2013, they started wondering what was the best way to operate, what could be done. but other factors came in the way as well. So there was a need, a pressure from the provincial government to establish mandatory sorting system across the province. So for 2016 in Kent County, everyone was putting all of their waste into black bags and it was collected every week and no one was asking questions about recycling or organics or whatever. So there was a lot of pressure coming from provincial government and our municipalities as well to put in place something mandatory for our residents. And but that being said, municipalities quickly realized that they lacked the resource and expertise to transition to a sorting program by themselves. And that's where they tasked us, with consulting other regions where such a program was put in place, and external experts to determine what would be the best way to ensure proper waste services in our area while trying to mitigate increase in collection costs. And that's where we came up with the solution we called the optimized collection system. So what we suggested to our board of directors is that the Kent Regional Service Commission would be the manager of waste collection contract for anyone who would be willing to give us the authority to do so. So that would mean not only preparing public call for tenders and preparing the contracts, signing them on behalf of our municipalities or other entities. It also meant handling all communication, promotion and education, customer service, social media, negotiation with the contractors. So we would take care of all of it on their behalf. That's actually why I was hired. To begin with, I would be like the people facing our public with questions and concerns or complaints. And what we suggested is to have fewer contracts and have all of these contracts, the cost for all contracts pulled together and divide the full amount of all contracts by the number of stops, so the residents. So wherever you would live in Kent County, be it all the way north or south, closer to where the sorting facilities were, you would pay the same thing per household. So that way it was fair for everyone. Now, when it comes to tonnage, we decided to put in place a tipping fee that would be divided by population, because you could have a lot of households with one resident in them, whereas other location could have fewer households but bigger family. So basically, user-payer kind of mentality. The more population you have, normally the more garbage you create. So that's how we put in place two equalization formula that we established to manage those contracts. How did we get to that? It's by using reliable data. So first of all, we contacted all municipalities, the local service manager for the province, and collected the information on current collection cost, and we created estimates. And one thing I'm a big fan of doing, and my partner who created that program also is to create many scenarios. We don't have the real numbers, so why just give one? So we basically presented different scenarios to our board of directors saying, like, this is the optimistic estimation. This is more realistic. And this is really if we're pessimistic. Like, the worst case scenario possible would be this amount. And that way, it brought a bit of more like transparency and trust towards us, because we didn't just throw a number out of nowhere. We explained the rationale behind what we were proposing. We also looked at tonnage data, and that demonstrated that many of our trucks were coming in to dump at the transfer station, and they were basically empty because our population and location were so small. The same way, collection routes were found very inefficient, and just to show it, you can see here a map of the region. In green, you have our municipalities, and you might not be able to see it very clearly right now, but the black lines are our main arteries, so the main roads in our region. Now, I illustrated what the contracts look like. So you can see here already, the main road, the 126, there are 4 different contracts where trucks were driving through it, but just collecting a small portion of that area. Same goes for Highway 11, and same goes for other roads right there. So because of that, we observed really easily that it was not efficient. So the results, after we presented all of these data, numbers, and options to our board of directors, all local service districts, which is, remind you, is we're 20 local service districts, 1 First Nation and 4 municipalities decided to join the optimized collection system in 2016. 1 municipality and the 2 other First Nation decided to keep their contract. They were more at risk of seeing cost increase in this project. And another municipality decided to get rid of all their contracts and just they bought their own trucks and offered it in-house instead. So in the fall of 2015, we activated. We brought out our call for tenders. And what it came back to is we had 13 contracts up until 2015, and we brought that down to 5 collection zones. We created the same minimal requirements across the region that enabled us to put in place a sorting system in the near future. We optimized collection routes, and we reduced trip frequencies because of the highways I showed you earlier, bunching together the contracts, if you want. And that lowered operational cost for the contractors and also cut down on greenhouse gas emissions. Fewer trucks just makes sense. So what does it mean in numbers? So for the savings, participating communities saved around $250,000 annually for 3 years in collection cost compared to what they were paying before. But that's not the only savings we observed. Through tonnage, we observed that it went basically down because the trucks were fuller. They didn't have the opportunity to mix ICI garbage with residential, double dipping basically, where they would charge a commerce to go empty their bin, include in that the tipping fee of $119 a ton, but then drop it in the residential truck and have the municipality pay that $119 a ton, which is not very legal, but was really hard to police when we didn't have a sorting system or a better way of doing collection contract. So with the new standard that we put in place, we saw a reduction of about 2,000 tons in 2 years, and at $119 a ton, it's about $230,000 again that came back to municipalities that they could use for other programs. And then every time a client called, a resident called about garbage, municipalities would simply transfer the call to the commission, saving them precious time for their really limited human resource that they could put that time elsewhere. So there's not really a number associated with that saving, but you can obviously imagine that that had a positive impact on them. So again, that started in 2016. What have we learned since then, or what have we observed? Well, clearly it was a success because both municipalities who opted out in 2015 have now joined the optimized collection system. So we have all municipalities on board with us. Still only 1 First Nation. The other 2 are still working together, though, to have like a singular contract instead of working in isolation, and we assist them with all of that. We implemented a mandatory 3-stream sorting program, so that was a big change, going from having singular black bags with everything in there, going to a 3-stream system, so recycling, organics, and your garbage. And we also switched from a 3-set date collection of bulky waste per year to an on-demand system all year long through the management of the contract. So those changes were a lot easier to implement because we had fewer contractors to deal with to change those contracts and put in place the changes. But it was also easier in general for our residents to follow the rules or understand how to sort their waste when the rules were the same everywhere in our region. And they had a single point of contact instead of having to contact their municipalities where they live all year long, and then another municipality where they have a cottage along the shore. They only have to deal with us. So it was easier for them as well. And very recently, the province of New Brunswick voted for an EPR program, the PPP program for paper and packaging product, which I'm pretty much certain at this point is almost everywhere in Canada. But at that point, since the contracts were all within our grasp, we talked as a single voice, the whole region, instead of having small municipalities deal directly with circular materials where they didn't really understand what they were talking about because there were a lot of change happening in 2023 in New Brunswick, and some of the administrators that were there basically just got their job because new municipalities were created out of nowhere. They had the expertise from the commission to speak on their behalf. And that way we got a pretty good deal with Circular Materials as their service provider. We continue collecting recyclables for them, and they pay us to do so, which helps in the end because, again, extra revenue, less money that we have to go get from our municipalities. So just to end this, because I know I'm running out of time, a bit of the lessons learned and new challenges that we're facing. So this is, if this is a project that you would consider for your own region, like trying to work together as a group instead of in isolation, I will say start speaking about it right now. Start the discussion, but plan for 2-3 years, because you need to align all contracts to end at the same time. You don't want a municipality to jump in but have to pay a penalty because they're ending their contract early. So make sure that you plan ahead. It requires a lot of time, a lot of conversation to have this align and work. One challenge that we kind of wrestle with was how can we ensure that while doing this and making the collection more efficient, we do not kill the little guy. We had several local companies and we still wanted them to stay competitive in this new system. So we've definitely saw from the beginning, fewer contracts means higher savings. We could have decided to have 1 contract for the whole area, 2. But we decided, no, you know what? If we do that, we are definitely destroying our local contractors. So we stuck with 5 because that allowed them to still be able to bid and to offer the service for the municipalities, and competition is healthy in this world. You want it. So that was really important for us. So we kept it at 5 contract, which still shrinked the total number while avoiding big negative impact on the smaller guys. And keep in mind that you really don't want to end with a monopoly when it comes to solid waste collection, because that gets out of control real fast. So unfortunately, that being said, the costs have obviously increased in the past 10 years, so it's still, we're not seeing the same amount of savings, and it's hard for us to say if they would have stuck with their small contracts, what would be the savings compared to keeping this approach. It's been told that inflation, diesel price, recruitment and retention challenges explained why the cost increased so much, but comparing dollar value from 2015 to 2025, there's still a huge gap to understand, to explain that difference. We strongly subject that, there's a bit of a capitalism greed also playing a part here, which is one of the challenges when you deal with the private sector, obviously. So facing these increases, our board of directors have now tasked us with more research. So right now we have a study underway to determine if going automated would save costs, be it either staying with the private sector and have those automated carts and arms to do collection, or even buying our own fleet of trucks and offering the service in-house, even though it would mean a lot of investment up front and a lot of challenge for recruitment, I'm sure. This study is undergoing right now, it's underway, and we'll see where it leads us. But even if we decide to move forward with automation or with in-house collection, we know that it's going to take a few years for it. If we make a decision this fall or next year, that it will take 2-3 years for it to be ready to launch. So now you can see you can see what our collection zone looks like compared to what we saw before with the really small contract. And I also, since I forgot to bring any business card, if you want to keep the conversation going, if you have questions that I don't have the chance to answer today, please feel free to reach out to me. It's going to be my pleasure to talk to you about this. I've spent 10 years working in solid waste, and I've never thought that it was such a, how would I say that? People are so passionate about it. So thank you for your attention, and if you have any question, please go ahead.